Welcome students. In this video we're going to determine whether the given function has an inverse. We don't need to get the inverse, but we only need to know whether it has an inverse. So let's see what let's start by looking at the domain. So the domain of this function, well, you can plug in any real number, you're going to get a real number. So that means that it's all reals. And the range, since we can plug in, let's see the range. For the range, we will have to know the inverse, so that way we can find out whether it's all reals or not. But I'm not gonna look at the range. The way you do this type of problem is like this. You take the first derivative of the function and you do, okay, so that would be minus 2 minus 3x squared. That's the derivative of this one. Then we need to determine whether this function is monotonically. Is it monotonic? That means that it's either increasing or decreasing in the whole domain. Well, let's think about it. If we plug in 0, okay, so let's see, f prime of 0, if we plug in 0, then we get 0 here, we get a negative, so f prime is less than 0. If we plug in a negative number, let's say x is less than 0, what happens? So negative times a negative becomes positive, so this whole thing becomes negative again. So f prime of x is less than 0. If x is greater than 0, that means that it's positive. We plug in a positive number, it's just like the x less than 0. F prime of x is less than 0. Because a positive number times a negative becomes negative. Negative and a negative becomes negative. Alright, so we determined that in the whole domain of this the whole domain of the derivative is always decreasing, it's less than 0. So that means that this is strictly, in the whole domain, strictly monotonic decreasing. And because it's monotonic, that means that we're gonna get an inverse. So this function does have an inverse. So that's all we needed to do for this problem. But again, if you want to know the range, you probably need to do a little more work. The way that I would do it is I would get the inverse and then look at that domain. That will tell me the range of the function, because it will tell me all the values that this function can attain within a certain domain. In this case, all reals. Thank you very much, students.